Can it be? Is it true that you once again click the play button on yet another
resplendent episode of V8 Radio, Kevin?
Another resplendent episode. Right, I don't even know what resplendent means.
Resplendent means having great beauty.
All right, so it's not only splendid, it's resplendid.
Yes, pretty
much. Splendid squared.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on.
Yeah, man.
I'll take that. Well, I'm your host, Kevin Ostie, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clark, and this is the V8 Radio podcast, which is apparently now resplendent.
Yes, sir. All day, all night, all nice.
And at the same price.
It doesn't get any better than that.
That's right. Right on. Well, seems like just yesterday we were doing this.
It does, right? This is crazy.
Yeah, for sure, which is good. We've tried to increase our frequency to weekly on these things, so not to say that it always will be weekly, but we're trying. So if you are already sick of us, I'm sorry. If you want more, hopefully we can continue at this pace. So thank you for joining us and tuning in and subscribing and all that. We appreciate it.
Right on, Buzz.
And this here on the V8 Radio Show is it's a podcast, and it's about car stuff and the scene, if you will. And, of course, our astute repeat listeners that listen every single week now.
There has to be one.
He knows, or she knows, that we start each episode off with an automotive-related trivia question. And have you, in fact, prepared a trivia question?
Well, since this is an automotive-related podcast, I have prepared an automotive-related trivia question. So how about that? All right, Kev and listener, short, sweet, to the point. What is the oldest car company still in business today?
The oldest car company still in business today. Well, my guess is that it is Mercedes-Benz. But you tend to try to throw curveballs out there every once in a while.
I throw curveballs.
Yeah.
I throw curveballs. I learned from the master who I'm talking to right now.
Borscht. So what other old car companies are there that are the same age or older than Mercedes-Benz? I don't know. The Peugeot, the French people over there? Fiat? No, I don't think so. Something in Eastern Europe? No. I don't think Japan. You know, Henry Ford and the Ford Motor Company would probably be second. I don't think the Dodge brothers started before them, did they? I don't know.
No, the Dodge brothers worked for Ford.
That's what I thought, yeah. They said, see you later, Mr. Henry.
Yeah, we're going to do
we're starting our own deal. Yeah. So just to keep it a little less agonizing for our listener, I'm going to say Mercedes-Benz or Daimler-Benz or Daimler, whatever it's called today.
Gotcha. Kevin says Mercedes-Benz.
Right.
All right. Final answer, duly
don't know if it's
noted.
right, but soon we will find out.
Yeah, at the end of the show.
All right. Well, I've got one for you.
All right. I bet you do.
Yeah. Well, it's right up your alley. It's about Pontiacs.
Oh, perfect. I can't wait to lose another one of those.
No, I mean, you'll get this one. This is all right. So we talk about Pontiac power, right? And the mighty Pontiac V8s and the early muscle cars and then the high performance cars over the years. Pontiac is synonymous with performance. What was the weakest Firebird ever?
Ooh, the weakest Firebird ever.
The antithesis of Pontiac Firebird performance, if you will.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're saying what was the lowest horsepower Firebird?
That would be it.
Okay. Well.
And bonus, two bonus. I shouldn't make those the bonus. It should be part of the question, but I'll make them bonus. The year and the horsepower rating.
Ooh,
or
wow.
Boni, if you will.
Oh. Okay. Well, there were some 6-cylinder Firebirds back in the day,
Ooh.
the first gen. It had overhead cam 6 cylinders in both
Yeah.
the 1-barrel as well as the Sprint version, which was the 4-barrel. You also had...
I can't imagine that 1-barrel 6 being a real powerhouse. That was overhead cam also, too, right?
It was overhead cam.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's cool.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
First debuted in 1966.
Listen to the Pontiac knowledge just
Oh.
flowing out of this guy.
This is my time, man. Okay. However, in the later years, in the third gens, I believe there was a 4-cylinder
Ooh,
Firebird.
travesty.
Yes, I believe it was the first time a 4-cylinder's been offered in an F body.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and I think it was the Iron Duke, the infamous Iron Duke, and so it's a 3rd-gen Firebird. That was the weakest one, and I'm gonna say that it was 1982 when it was offered. What was the other bone eye?
how much
Oh, the horsepower.
horsepower
Okay.
did it actually make?
It actually made. I mean, I'm not going to get this right, but I'm going to say 110 horsepower.
All right. So a 3rd-gen Iron Duke 4-cylinder powered, 1982, cranking out an earth-turning 110, is that what you said?
Correct.
110 horsepower. All right. Duly noted.
Good question too. Great
You like,
question.
you like that? Not at least bit insulted by the fact that it wasn't. I mean, I tried to build up the intro to throw a little
like
nod to
that.
the Pontiac.
That was nice. That was nice. You do me right, man. You do me proud.
Well, it's not just you. You know,
Yeah.
everybody likes Pontiac. So,
This is true.
except my buddy Darren, for some reason, he does not like Pontiacs,
Well.
and it's got really nothing to do with the cars or the brand or any of that. Apparently, he had some kind of childhood story about being in a Pontiac station wagon that was not pleasant. So
So it's the car
Forever.
company's fault.
he just doesn't like them, I guess. You know,
All right.
I don't know. I once had milk that was 3 months past its date, and I don't really like milk because of it now. I'm a little bit leery of that sometimes. You know,
Well, now that's not the milk's fault.
it's not. I still don't like it.
Yeah.
I moved on to the almonds that are crushed up in a milk container now.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. How is that almond milk?
The vanilla's good.
Is it? I never tried it.
Pour it over cereal. You'll like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try it.
There you go.
All right. Not only automotive knowledge on this show, Kevin, but nutritional tips as well.
That's it. What more could you ask for?
We're multifaceted.
The end of the show probably is what you could ask for. Well, so you and I hate to point this out, but you actually kind of sound like you had a long day.
I did have a long day today, so I apologize up front, everybody.
The pitch is a couple of clicks lower, and you know.
Yeah, it has been long. I'll try to boost the treble in post
Well, I appreciate the perseverance and the energy and
all day.
joining us anyway. I mean, because I look at this as a great way to kind of leave the angst of the day in the rearview mirror.
True. That's a great way to look at it, and I do that. I do look forward to every time we get to do this, and I can't believe it's been 6 years this year that we've been doing this.
It is. Holy macaroni.
Yeah, right?
You'd think we would have figured it out by now.
Well, all the shortcomings are definitely on this side of the table at V8 Radio Studios North.
Yep. Same here, north and south. So that's an interesting point. 6 years, and I figured on this particular episode, it's time to do something a little bit different. That, in many ways, I feel pretty bad for not doing in the past. But as you know, And maybe if you've just joined us as a new listener to the V8 radio podcast, A, you got 6 years of catching up to do. But B, this really didn't start out as a, high-level production show, right? This really kind of more or less started off as Mikey Q-Ball Clark and I basically recording our phone conversation.
Right. Pretty much.
Because we don't live, well, behind the scenes. As we record this, we're 320 some miles apart from each other, even though it sounds like we're in the same room thanks to technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we decided to continue to do this, then it became a little more showy and a little more, of a thing.
Yeah.
So that means there was never a sit-down strategy meeting of what topics should we cover and what's the goal of this show,
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna do a legit production, you need to know who's the audience, where's the distribution,
Right.
who are we going to tickle with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the goal here? And for us, we just backed into this thing and we didn't really do it. We did it because we just like doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in all honesty, I think that's how the vast majority of podcasts go. Today,
Yes.
everybody's got the ability to buy a USB microphone and plug into something and BS for an hour,
Right.
whatever. And so that's how it goes. But one of the interesting things is that my life is in many ways compartmentalized. I have the V8 TV television world.
Right.
I have the muscle car guy world with Muscle Car of the Week and being the MC guy at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals.
Yes.
I have my things I do with SEMA. I have the things I do at the some of the off-road shows and the Street Machine Nationals, and the things that I do with the shop, V8 Speed and Resto.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. It's not amazing to me, but it's interesting to note that a lot of those things don't cross over. Like I meet a lot of people who don't know 5 of the 6 things that I do. They know me as, hey, I see you every year at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals.
Right.
And then they put you in a closet or something. And the next year they drag you out again, whatever. And at SEMA, it was great because last year I was hosting the Hall of Fame banquet. And afterwards, a lot of the people in attendance, we went to the top floor of the hotel in Vegas, and there was a cocktail lounge. We were having drinks, and I'm hanging out with some people that were in attendance that I don't know very well, but they were there, and we're chatting, and we're talking about business. And the one guy owned a four-wheel drive business, manufacturing parts and building trucks. This other gal works for a suspension company, and somebody else is with a tire company. So a diverse portfolio of automotive things. And we're chatting, and I had a little something to converse with each one of them, just because this is my world. I do this stuff.
Right.
And this gal looks at me and she goes, What do you do? Like,
how did you get in here?
Who are you again? And she said, don't get me wrong, you do a great job on stage, but what are you? You know?
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's where she knows you from, is from the Hall of Fame banquet.
Right. Yeah. She's seen me on stage, a couple of SEMA events, and that's the context, So we chatted for a little while about, I'm fortunate that I do other events, and I'm, an enthusiast, and I know how to wrench, and we have a shop. And, we had no idea. So that's kind of a marketing challenge. It's like, why don't people know what the heck you do?
Oh boy.
And it is kind of fun when I go to an off-road event, because I'm known the least in those. And, people come up at the end of a weekend show, like the 4-wheel jamboree, and they're like, yeah, that was cool. You got an off-road shop somewhere or something? It's like, well, not really, but a shop. And, so it's neat to kind of cross over. And it's my way of getting immersed into this sport and hobby that I like so much. So that part's cool. But on a bigger scale, when it comes to the shop and when it comes to the V8 TV stuff, there's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't share, and not because we don't want to. It's not intentional. And a lot of it is all of the people on our staff that make this place go around.
Right.
And I owe just a tremendous debt of gratitude to the people that we have in our shop. And it hits me all the time. But today it really dawned on me that for me, I have to step away from our business and experience how things work in other people's lives and other people's businesses to get a perspective of our own.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I recently went somewhere where you could clearly see that the people were disgruntled that worked there. I mean, not like shooting up the place like a disgruntled, postal worker from the 90s.
Right.
But they weren't happy. They were doing a job.
They weren't joyful, yeah.
They were not being able to have any creativity. They were just kind of going through the motions and getting the paycheck. And they're looking at that second hand to hit 5 o'clock straight up to get the heck out. And you could tell they didn't like their coworkers. They had to communicate with them to get the job done.
Right.
And in our business, we have none of that.
Wow. What's that like?
Well, it's pretty amazing. And I don't ever want to take that for granted. And so I thought today I wanted to take the time to acknowledge every single person that works in our organization.
Right on. Yeah.
Because, and not to sound cliche or trite, but without them, none of this gets done. And that's the truth. Because I don't do any of this in many ways. I don't work on the cars. I'm not the painter. I don't do that stuff. I help. Kelly and I built the business to have all that to happen. But when it comes to actually building the cars, which is the biggest part of our business, we have professionals that get this done.
Cool. Yeah. Without them, you have some buildings, and that's pretty much it.
Right. Empty buildings with sad faces. So
no doubt, man.
And it's, one of these things where I've been in those jobs where you show up and you don't, they call it work for a reason. They don't call it, I'm going to fun today. I'm going to work today.
Yeah.
So there's no obligation to like everybody else and get along with everybody else, and feed upon each other and compliment each other. So we've had that for quite a while. And to be able to cultivate that type of team, again, I think my perspective changed a little bit to where I won't say I was taking that for granted, but it wasn't as obvious as, it can be, again, until you look away and then you go, oh, geez. So the only way I can do this accurately is basically just start alphabetically, and with first names. And the first person I'm going to mention is one of the A's, Amber Lazenby. So Amber is an administrative assistant, is I guess the title, right? But I don't really know what an administrative assistant does. If I hear that title, I think somebody who assists the administrator, but Amber does autonomous tasks that aren't really assisting, the administrator. Right. She's getting stuff done. So she does a lot of the, cultivating the invoices and the billing and making sure, the bills get paid and all that kind of stuff. But what is interesting about Amber is that her dad is one of the top dirt track and roundy round racers in the region.
Really?
Yes. His name is Mark McClintock. And he's a machinist instructor by day. So he trains machinists. So he is a machinist as well, an engine builder. And he has built his own race cars. He's been racing for over 40 years. And Amber has been on the crew the whole time.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. And she's got a family, and her husband's great, and 3 kids, and the whole thing. And at first glance, you would think she's, typical all-American soccer mom kind of person. Actually more of a wrestling mom now. Her kid's a good wrestler. But on the weekends, you go out to the track, and she's the one underneath setting up the rear ends and changing gears out. And
that's awesome.
Dialing in suspension. Yeah. So what's cool is there's not a part or an invoice or a company that she doesn't recognize what this stuff is.
Wow.
Yes.
That's invaluable.
Right. In a restoration performance shop, you can't have somebody at the front desk who doesn't know what's going on.
Correct.
And it's always cool to hear her be like, oh yeah, well this guy called and you need, these 48 whatever. And it's like, hey, right on. And I'm used to it, but there are people that come in and they're like, hey, oh, okay, sure. Just kind of unexpected. So
yeah.
And she's a hustler and just ball of energy and constantly gets stuff done. Huge part of our company. The next individual that also starts with A, Mr. Andrew Helfrich. His nickname is Red. He's got a red hair, you know.
All right.
And Andrew's a technician, and a really strong technician. He has a dealership background, so he's, you know, schooled in fixing, you know, modern vehicles. He is also one of the few in the proud. He was a U.S. Marine.
Right?
Yes.
Well, all right, Devil Dog.
Yeah, and in addition to his abilities to put stuff together and you know, do all the tasks of a technician, and in our case, the technicians do more than, we're not a repair shop, so they're not like fixing stuff all day. They're building stuff.
Right.
Sometimes you need to have diagnostic abilities to figure out why something doesn't work or, you know, whatever. But, you know, currently he's doing a big engine swap and transmission swap and putting a 4-link in a Chevy pickup truck. And so it's all kinds of stuff. But one of the fun things that we've learned from him is his attitude. His attitude's phenomenal. And he brought this from the Marine Corps. And somebody overheard him saying something and asked him about this attitude. And he said, look, I learned in the Marine Corps, you're going to do a lot of stuff that sucks. And if you approach that day like today's going to suck, then today's going to suck.
Yeah.
But if I show up and go, today's going to be awesome. Let's go get it. Let's get it done. You're going to have a great day.
I like that.
And that's what he does. He shows up every day with that attitude. And he, you know, again, the mindset of his training and everything else, it's hard to rattle him, you know. So if something doesn't go right, hey, we'll get there. We'll do it. We'll make it right. So it's very cool.
That is very cool. Hoorah.
Next up, a B, Mr. Brian Wibbenmeyer. He's our parts guy.
Love Brian.
Yeah,
He's
Brian,
the best.
Brian's great. He's a very smart guy. Brian, he had told me, and you know what they say, if you're in business and you find yourself doing a task that you don't like, there's somebody out there who likes that task. As hard as it might, you know, seem, somebody really enjoys that. Well, Brian loves looking up parts, chasing parts, finding sources, finding better deals, talking to suppliers about getting the stuff here on time or finding alternatives and coming up with a parts program for a car. And this goes with that. No, you can't use this because of that. And he's a hot rodder. Him and his brother, they're big in G-bodies.
Yep.
And in fact, coming up in May, I think he's going to campaign one of the cars at an MCA race.
Is he?
And they're also going to do drag week.
Right on. Oh, man, that's killer.
He's a power tour vet as well. And all around, you know, nonstop car guy. And he's got a great ability to talk to people and get stuff done. I feel bad because, you know, to me, if I start looking at parts, there's a rabbit hole. I'm going off the deep end,
right.
And you got to know where to draw the line. But he gets it done, and we do saddle him with a lot of stuff because got a lot of projects going on. A lot of guys need parts, and Brian shows up every day and brings it. And still, he's been there over a year, and still says, "Hey, this is better than working." So that's great.
Very cool. He's got a really nice Monte Carlo SS too.
He does. Yeah, they got a good handful of G-bodies. Yeah. Some family cars too. Pretty neat. So next up is our friend Caleb Stryker, and Caleb is a technician who he's a younger guy, and he's been with us since he was basically old enough to work in high school.
Wow.
So, and now he's in his 20s, his mid-20s, early mid-20s. So he's been with us for years and kind of grew up in our shop environment. Which is fantastic because he does a great job. He's very thorough. Him and his brother are also dirt track racers.
Right.
And his brother drives the car, and Caleb's kind of the crew chief. They both spin wrenches, you know, but they understand racing and they understand what it takes to put something together and get out there and run it for the weekend and try and win with whatever you got. So that mentality translates to what Caleb does in our shop, and he's formally trained as a machinist. So he knows, he's been to school for it and CNC machining and everything.
Cool.
So we find ourselves, in fact, we just kind of supplied his department with a new lathe and a new Bridgeport, end mill machine.
Was that right? Oh, very nice.
Yeah, because, he's the guy that's doing that work in our shop. And we don't do, we're not an engine machine shop. But
Right.
recently we found that, we get a lot of Corvettes in the shop. We get a lot of second-gen F-bodies. Every one of these has door hinges that are worn out. And the little bronze bushing
Yes.
door hinge pin rebuild kits aren't very precise.
Oh.
So Caleb built a fixture for these various cars that allows us to machine those hinges better and put better pins in them
Nice.
so that the doors are far more precise.
Good repeatability.
It is. Yeah. Right. And that's an exclusive thing. And it might not sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yeah.
Because that door fitment is the foundation to how that car looks at the end of the line. So he's good with all that kind of stuff, and also with his tuning capabilities, and just being, he does a lot of suspension upgrades and a lot of part upgrades, performance parts. So we're happy that Caleb is with us and doing all that. Next up is another C person, and this is Carrie Gibbons. And Carrie came to us, I don't know, a year or so ago. I might be getting that wrong. Time flies in my mind. But Carrie has the almost seemingly insurmountable task of largely managing the parts that go on these cars.
Holy cow.
So Brian is the parts guy, right?
Yeah.
So he orders the parts and gets them in. Carrie's the person who, when a car comes in for a full restoration, the technicians will blow this thing apart, and then Carrie gets all the stuff. So
Really?
she's labeling the parts. She's photo documenting them so that we know what we've got. She's photo documenting them so that we know the condition, and we can, get back with the customer and say, hey, did you realize that this piece of trim is bent or whatever? Should we replace it, or do you want us to repair it? And then she's saddled with storing everything safely and properly and in a way to where they can be retrieved from storage. And they might get restored on the way. And what we try to do, the ultimate goal is to take a car, take the parts off, say, okay, well, this pile here all needs to be stripped and painted. Strip them and paint them, and then wrap them and protect them, and then store them in an inventory system where their location is noted, so that when it's time to put the car back together, you're taking fresh parts, putting it back together.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Right.
Wow, that is a daunting task. Holy cow.
Well, it is because, sometimes she gets overwhelmed with the amount of cars that we have, and she's like, it just doesn't stop.
That's a good thing.
Well, it is a good thing on a business side, but I understand fully how it can be a challenge. So Trevor, who I'll chat about in a minute, and Kelly have tried to impart upon her that there is an end, because each one of these cars does get finished at some point.
Right.
And then those parts have all been installed and the car goes down the road. And yes, something's going to take its place, but that's the opportunity to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Gotcha.
So she also, in addition to managing all the parts, she does some of the restoration work as well. So,
She does.
Yeah. And between her and Sarge, who I'll mention in a minute too, they've created what we're calling the parts on demand situation.
Okay.
So as a technician is working and he's looking at the to-do list of what needs to happen, they contact Carrie, and in some cases Sarge, with the parts request they need. They beam it off on our digital system, and then she'll just show up with a wagon load of the stuff, and here's the parts.
That's great, man.
Right.
Yeah.
And because you don't want technicians running all over the place looking for parts.
Correct. They're
You don't-
burning time.
They're burning time, and you get into a situation where if I put this on the shelf and then you go try to find it on the shelf, you don't know where I put it.
Right.
So by having a singular point of contact of all that stuff, it streamlines all that. And all of this is a work in process. Things are evolving all the time, getting more refined and better, but that's the way it's going. And I'm glad Carrie's got a great attitude too. And she's up for the challenge. And she supplies the whole crew with snacks, I've learned.
Oh, nice.
There's little snack depots around the shop. So, there's a tip jar next to it. So, I'm trying to keep that going.
Very cool.
Next up is a gentleman named Chad Yock, and Chad recently joined us in marketing and video and social media work. And Chad is, everybody likes Chad, and Chad has an ability to photograph people in a manner that it really captures, kind of the personality of the person.
Right.
And you've seen some of these.
I have seen some of these photos, and they're a real departure from some of the other photos I've seen coming through the shop. Not that the other photos were bad, but this really adds something to them.
Right. And where this comes from is I was a kind of a student of our friends at Detroit Speed, Kyle Tucker. And Detroit Speed is an insanely successful company. In fact, they've been recently purchased by Holley. Mm-hmm. But over the years, when you look at the car build galleries on Detroit Speed's website, Kyle Tucker had this mandate that you couldn't put people in the pictures. It was all about the parts or the car or the fab work or whatever. And looking at that, I said, well, he's killing it. Maybe that's the way we should do it, you know? And because it's always great to show off the work. From the magazine world that I also came from, there was always somebody in the picture holding the caliper, or,
Right.
You've seen those features. So the Tucker concept kind of took place in my mind, and recently Chad has pointed out that no, I mean these are it's interesting to see people doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So he kind of brought that to the table along with a bunch of other stuff. So Chad's helping evolve the face of the business, if you will, which is pretty cool.
Good stuff.
Next up, and I'm going to try not to make this a super long episode, but everybody just has so much to offer on our team, and I'm bragging, and I know I am, but it's true.
Well, so you're allowed. You're allowed to.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Like the proud father over here. But Devin Eckert, we're into the D's, and Devin is a very interesting guy because he's got a technician background, but really wanted to be more of a fabricator. Okay. So he's been taking classes and going to seminars and buying tools and working his metal skills for a long time. And we had an opening for a fabricator, and he decided to take the leap from a performance shop that did like C7 Corvette superchargers and a lot of late model performance upgrades to be a metal guy.
Wow.
And his attention to detail is insane. It's beautiful. And
very nice.
You see it when you can weld two pieces of steel together and call it done. But Devin makes sure that the entire area has been dressed out and metal finished. Uh-huh. And it has that beautiful, soft looking, appearance and texture. Yeah. And it's like, ooh, like it never happened, which is one of our main missions, is to make it look like it never happened. Uh-huh. But B is able to blend everything so nicely and organically. And it's like, that's really good stuff. On. It's really sharp. Yeah. And he likes dogs, and he likes, apparently we had a mouse in the shop, and, Kelly was, gonna ixnay the mouse, and Devin, being the animal lover, is, trying to get us some humane traps. So he's a very kind person, and Kelly's like, really? And
just get the mouse out of here.
Yeah. No, man, so he's going to bed for the mouse, but a very strong talent in the shop. Next up is a gentleman named Jared Day, and Jared, a multi-talented guy. Jared, he's a great personality. He's great to talk to. He's another one very positive. Mm-hmm. And even if something's not going right, he presents it in a way that it's not offensive or negative. It's like, hey, we got this problem. What do you want to do about it? And he's one of these guys who works a full day at our shop, then goes home and works another full day working on his own stuff.
Oh, wow.
So, and his interest range covers everything from the Australian Ford stuff to imports to motorcycles. He's got a Trans Am. He's got that big silver Pontiac Bonneville convertible that's in our photograph.
Yeah.
On the Facebook page. So, trucks. He's down for everything, and he's a very strong technician. So he's good with rear ends and transmissions, but also the finesse stuff. So he's like our number one final assembly guy right now.
Okay. Good.
And he's got this ability to not just install the piece that he's working on, but look left and right and in and out and up and down at the other pieces that are affected by that.
Gotcha.
And he's constantly going through the assembly manuals and taking photos and diagrams to make sure that, hey, I'm putting in this bezel, but there's these special screws and that piece of trim, and I need it all.
Right. This washer goes here, and then that screw goes through that. And
Yeah, and then, where is that other piece? Because I'm getting ready to install it.
Yeah.
And, let's get all that together.
yeah, I like that attention to detail. That's what really makes for a really sweet final product.
Yeah, it makes all the difference. Staying in the J's, next up is Jason Beebe, who we affectionately known as Sarge.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah. So Sarge is an Air Force veteran who came to us a couple of years ago. He was a former loadmaster
Yeah.
on transport aircraft in the Air Force, which meant he took all kinds of stuff and all kinds of people and fit it on an airplane and flew it to the other side of the planet
Yeah.
and got everything off, and everything had to work and everyone was safe, and then he had
Yeah.
to bring it all back. So when he joined us as actually as a shop assistant, we just kind of let him go because it was obvious that he had kind of a vision of tuning stuff up in the building and storing things in certain places, and pretty soon organization started happening all over the place, and it's great. And he was sandbagging because, again, that military background, he's very respectful, yes or no, sir, kind of a speak when spoken to kind of person. And he's not going to come up and jump in the middle of a conversation and start volunteering stuff.
Right.
But if you ask, right? And Kelly and I were banging our heads together a couple of years ago because we were having some kind of a challenge. And Kelly's like, Sarge, you were in the military. Do you have any experience with managing people? Because, we're trying to figure out how to navigate this situation. He said, well, yes, ma'am. I think at one point he had 164 people under him. And we're like, what?
You were watching us bang our heads together this whole time.
Yeah, but has constantly provided, positive feedback and a very unique perspective that helps us stay on track to remember why we do this. That the cars are more than cars, and they're all significant, and they're extensions of your family and or friends or your history. And that's where the magic is. So even though you might get a little close to something and be mad at getting this piece to fit together, when you step back and go, that's really cool, though. This guy's had this car for 50 years, and they're allowing us to help him with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's special.
It is. And it's important to remember that, and Sarge always helps us with that. And he manages our shipping and receiving and quality control, and if a part comes in and it's bent or damaged or, he's got it, it's gone, he's all over that stuff. He does a million different things in the business, so we're very fortunate to have Sarge. Next up, we have a lot of J's. Mr. Jay Jenner.
Jay Jenner.
Jay is a multi-talented guy. He came to us as kind of a metal fabricator guy. He's a great TIG welder. He makes beautiful, it doesn't matter, patch panels or custom metalwork consoles. And he said, hey, I've got experience doing interior work. Is there any chance that I could start installing the interior pieces and, maybe making some of that? And Kelly said, you've got interior experience? And he said, well, yeah. So to make a long story short, Jay runs our interior shop now, and has for a couple of years, and is doing a bang-up job. And there's basically no limitations to what Jay's been able to do. So customer wants a convertible top, Jay does a convertible top. Customer wants custom seats, makes custom seats. He's got certificates on the wall of all of the accolades and degrees, if you will, from certifications from interior training centers to car audio training and installations.
Oh, cool.
He just got back from a 3 or 4 day long seminar in Arizona, as a matter of fact, that was all about audio, interior, and that technology. Jay's the guy running the 3D printer all the time, making parts.
That's killer. I've seen some pictures of some of his interior work, and wow.
It's amazing.
It's beautiful. It is so nice.
And again, he pays attention to those details. So when he's making a set of seat covers, because he makes them out of scratch, all the lines are straight.
Yes.
And the French stitching and the reverse stuff, and wrapping dash pads and leather, and the stuff that's really pretty complicated. He bangs it out, and it looks killer. And the neat thing is, being a metal fabricator as well, he knows on the flip side, he knows what a piece of steel needs to have to accommodate upholstery.
Right.
And then he knows what the upholstery needs to do to be able to put that piece back in the car. And in addition, he's also a round racer and runs his car. And he's a smaller operation. Doesn't have his brother and a family as his crew. So he does a lot himself. He painted his car. He did the motor, and so an all around a great talent, great asset.
Right on.
Another J, Mr. Jeff Whitlick, and Jeff's title is painter. If I just called Jeff a painter, I would be doing Jeff a giant disservice.
That's an insult. Yeah.
Because Jeff's a magician. And not, it's sure, a guy's a great painter. What Jeff does is he brings a level to the creativity that is what I think very unusual. And it's the fact that his work is so incredibly thorough that when he paints something, we never have metallic stripes or a color mismatch or a thin spot at the bottom of the quarter or a big run or a sag or something.
Right.
And sure, everybody gets a run in the clear here and there, but he certainly knows how to repair those things as needed. But not only that, he is also brilliant at surface refinement and preparation in the body shop. So when something's going through its final rounds of filler, he comes in and does the primers and does all the wet sanding and makes sure all those body lines are super, super crisp. And every single surface is equally massaged and covered and beautiful. And I'll tell you, he kind of taught me and hopefully is teaching everybody in the shop that if I go look at a show car now, I don't look at the middle of the quarter panel. I look at that tiny little crotch in the window behind the weather strip.
Right.
And if the paint quality in there is as good as it is on full display in the middle of the quarter panel,
right,
then you had somebody in your paint department that was conscientious. Right?
Yeah.
And if Jeff did it, it's going to be that way. And it's funny to talk to other people in the collision world around here because it's a pretty small world. A lot of people know each other, and they're like, "Oh yeah, is Jeff still painting for you guys?" Yeah. Oh yeah, it's good. That's good. Well, I know. Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate him, and he's also truly an artist. He's trained with the art school.
Oh, no kidding.
So yeah, and he's very, very, very creative. He's very helpful, and he if somebody expressed interest in learning the craft, he's the first one to help them and share that knowledge.
Very nice.
He also makes sure it doesn't slow him down or,
right,
detract from his thing. But the last element, well, not the last, but of this short speech, one of the things that Jeff is also a master of is fixing stuff. So if something doesn't go right, he's got the experience and the know-how to handle it. So consequently, I don't know if there's problems because he just takes care of them.
And you shouldn't know that there's problems because
Right.
they should take care of them.
Well, and there's always going to be something,
Right.
Back in my old days when I was painting cars in my parents' garage, and I'm using an enamel that takes forever to dry and a big bug lands in the middle of the hood and ruins everything, what did I do? I had to fix it. But in our world, you have people that if they run into a situation where, I don't know, a piece gets scratched or there's a run in the clear, it would be very easy to go run to the boss and go, "Oh man, what are we going to do? We got a problem here." And we don't get that. What we get is, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it looks awesome again. Thanks, Jeff. And he's got, the accolades are all the SEMA cars and the show cars and all the awards. And
Yeah.
the first thing you notice is that paint finish. So it's an amazing part of what we do, and we appreciate Jeff tremendously. Another J, Mr. Joe Dom. Joe, our sales
Joe
guy.
Dom, yeah.
And I kind of was calling him more of a customer service thing, because the sales term, it's got a connotation these days, especially
Sure.
when you start talking about car stuff and sales. People, in my mind anyway, you don't want to be labeled as a used car salesman type person.
Yeah.
But Joe truly is a professional salesman. He knows how to talk to somebody to find out what they want, find out what they're comfortable with, and then let them know why or why not we should do it for them, why they want to work with us, and then help them through the process, and that is professional sales,
It is. Yeah. You ask those qualifying questions. You get the whole picture.
Right. And it's not because we're very fortunate that we have a lot of work to do, and we have a backlog right now, which is great, and managing is a different story. But so we don't need to take every single job to keep the lights on. We don't need to try and upsell people on stuff just to make our rent payment.
Right.
Well, we don't need that. We're okay. What we need is to communicate with the customer so that we understand what it is they truly want and how we can get them there in a straight line. And if they don't want us to do it, that's fine too. But you don't know that until you go through that communication process.
Correct.
And Joe's great at that. He can have conversations that you would think might be a little uncomfortable because they involve numbers and finance, and next thing you know, him and the other guy are laughing on the phone. It's no big deal.
Nice.
All the pressure's gone, and it's obviously building relationships, which is great.
Yes.
It's also
It's all
crucial in our world to keep the customer in the know as much as possible.
Well, sure, absolutely. I mean, with something as potentially expensive as a full restoration, you definitely need to have communication with that client every step of the way.
Yeah.
And let them know everything. That way, because, I mean, you could just, go a month without talking to them, and then boom, here's an invoice. Like, hey, wait, what's all this?
Right.
We didn't talk about any of this.
That's bad.
Yeah.
And especially if you consider we've got customers we've never met. They're in other countries,
Yeah.
and to have somebody, send you money in a car,
Yeah, that's a lot of trust.
that is a lot of trust. So, Joe does a great job of making sure they're comfortable and that they know what they're getting and that they're in charge and that we're there to help them out. So we appreciate Joe. Joe's a little bit loud, but that's okay.
I can get behind that. Everyone where I work, they say I'm the loudest one too. So
There you go.
right on, Joe. Keep doing it, brother.
He's definitely within earshot of my desk. So so next up, Jay, we have Johnny Blandford, who's Kelly's nephew. And Johnny's a guy who has, I will say, unknown talents in the sense
Okay.
that we don't know everything he's capable of.
I got
So
you.
he is largely our building guy. He's our maintenance guy. He
Gotcha.
builds racking. He builds shelving. He builds a lot. Builds desks. Builds workbenches. Puts lights up. He's the guy who handles the locks and the lights and the all that stuff to keep the show on the road.
He literally keeps the lights on.
He does. He
Yeah.
does. And in fact, just today, we were talking because we have, I don't know, technically 4 buildings that we work out of, and they've got different keys and different locks and everything. And over the years, I get a little frustrated because I got this rack of keys. I don't even know what they're all for, And I told Johnny, I'm like, is there any way to keep track? I know we could some of these are keyed together, and that's one thing. But is there any way to keep a map of all this stuff? And he's like, oh, here. He had already made a map of all the buildings with the keys all coded so that,
Oh, nice. All right, Johnny.
there you go. Smart idea. Makes it happen. So kind of behind the scenes, but he does a lot. We appreciate that. Another J, the last of the J's, got a lot of J's, Mr. Jordan Kester. And Jordan is a mechanic technician. Jordan is very sharp, and Jordan is very big into personal fitness, so he's a strength training guy. He's always lifting and trying to set goals for himself and achieve them, right?
Yep.
And he does the same thing with the cars that he's working on, which a very disciplined approach, which I really like. It's you don't see it that often, and he is a very good wrench, from a mechanical standpoint, but he's also a great welder and a great fabricator.
Cool.
So pairing those skills together really allows him to, for right now example, he's doing a 68 Camaro, doing an LSA swap, and there's a lot of custom fab work on it. There's a firewall, there was an air intake tube, there's a whole mandrel bent exhaust, and it's a Ride Tech 4-link in the back that has no room to run an exhaust system up over the axle, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people dump it out to the side right there
Sure.
and call it a day. And Jordan's like, I don't want to do that, and the customer didn't want to do that. So we had this big, long conversation, and Jordan ended up building a very beautiful exhaust system that it actually goes under the axle, which in my mind is, kind of a bozo no-no, because it's not, you never do it. You're worried about it getting smashed on something or hanging too low. And after Trevor pointed out, well, that's how Corvettes are. They pretty much all of them go under the axle. And Jordan's like, yeah, I think we can do this so that even with that pipe going under the axle, I can tuck it high enough to where it's far from the lowest point of under the car.
Okay.
And nothing's going to happen to it. So sure, make it so. And beautiful work, beautiful TIG welding, and it's amazing. And it's a bummer that that's under the car.
Right.
And Jordan is also a guy who, you can talk ideas out, and he wants to know why things have to be the way they have to be, and then he can plan and then make it all come together. And if he doesn't know something, he'll ask, and let's get it figured out. So
yeah, I had the good fortune of meeting him when he came with us to the SEMA show, and I believe the Mechanican show as well.
That's right.
Yeah. I enjoyed getting to know him. He's a really good kid.
Yes, yeah, another very respectful guy. And,
yeah.
so then there's 2 Ks, and I'm going to skip over them. there's Kelly we'll talk to in a minute, and then my nonsense. We're going to zip over that. Moving on to the M's, Mr. Mason Springer. And Mason is a fairly recent addition to the team, a very admirable story. So Mason's deal, from what I understand, is that, he was a young guy and he wasn't quite sure about his opportunities and what to do, but he knew he liked to work with his hands, and he knew he liked cars, and he liked metal. So he put himself through school to learn welding and to get certified.
No kidding.
And metal work, and then came to work for us. And we started him doing, some sheet metal repair and stuff like that. And his metal work is insane. It's beautiful.
Is that right?
And our concern, we've had histories where people come to us as a welder. And the term welder a lot of times refers to heavy gauge stuff. Okay. So they're construction, they're building bridges, and then you hand them a piece of, 18 gauge sheet metal.
Yeah.
And a TIG welder, and they're stuck. They can't do it. And not Mason. This guy nails it. And one of his earlier projects was we were working on a car that needed an aftermarket panel, and the aftermarket panel didn't have the same shape or the same holes in it, like functional holes as the original.
Yeah.
And it was a seat brace, and it worked, but it just wasn't accurate.
Okay.
So he systematically transferred the holes from one to another and transferred the contours that were not present in the one stamping and cut them out and moved them into the other one.
Wow.
So that when that piece was done, it looked exactly like the original piece.
Ooh, that's nice.
It was nice.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So he's doing great, and we appreciate that. Again, that attention to detail and his willingness to dive into just about anything. Another M, Mr. Matthew Shallow. Matt is a recent hire for us. He's a mechanic with a lot of different experiences that we're still learning about. he is a guy who jumped all in. He moved here from the East Coast to take this job,
Oh, wow.
relocated, and he's an Army veteran.
Right on.
And he has been bringing an ethic and an attitude to his work that is, it's great. You know when you meet people that you don't have to worry about,
Yes.
I can give this guy something to do. He's going to get it done, and he's going to do it right. And if he's got a problem, he's going to tell me, and then we're going to find out what the answer is and go. And
I like
it.
it.
I do too.
Yeah.
And he worked at another hot rod shop that did some really, really nice stuff. So he's familiar with, high end and knows how to be around those cars.
Yes.
Because sometimes if you have somebody who worked in a repair shop or is a mechanic, they might not be focused on the fact that it's a $50,000 paint job.
Yeah.
And you got to protect everything, and you got to be ginger and careful and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So he gets all that. And he's been a very nice guy, and he's been blending very well with the team, and a great addition. He's got a really cool dog named Bear, very large dog.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which brings us to Mr. Mike Bess. And Mike has been with us for a number of years, and he's our senior technician in the sense that he's been repairing cars, longest on planet Earth of anybody in our shop.
Probably longer than we've both been alive.
Well, I didn't want to just throw it out there that he's the oldest on the team.
Sorry, Mike.
But he is. But that's great because there's, huge mountains of libraries of experience
Yes.
in Mike, in what he does. But he's also a tremendous enthusiast of not only cars, but machinery and handcrafted things and history and music and analog stuff. And he's got a very old world craftsman like presence.
Yeah.
So when Mike goes to work on something, he's not a parts changer,
Yes.
He's gonna figure it out because he's been there, and he's gonna tell you what it needs, and he's gonna tell you we need to fix this original part because it's better than the one you can buy from the parts store.
Gotcha.
And make it right, not just make it work, but make it right.
Yes.
No.
I love that term, make it right.
Yeah. And, he's a great guy, and we find ourselves texting each other songs, on after hours and weekends and stuff. Hey,
Nice.
did you hear this one from, Mott the Hoople or whatever,
Yeah.
We
Right
always try
on.
to throw each other stuff that, we've never heard before. But he also collects weird antique dental instruments that are kind of like torture devices. So that
Really? Well, all right.
well, I was just fascinated by how they used to do stuff. That's
Fair enough.
that's-
Fair enough.
Yeah. So we like Mike. I think Mike's job interview, was 3 or 4 visits.
Is that right?
Over and over again. Because he was at one shop for over 3 decades, and then he came
My
to us.
goodness.
And
Yeah,
he
I
wanted
guess
to
he
make
wants
sure,
be sure. Yeah.
that we're not a bunch of idiots that are going to be gone tomorrow. Right?
Hey, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully, so far, we've proved that to be true, so that we're not going anywhere. So that's good.
We might be a bunch of idiots, but we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, we keep showing up.
Yeah.
So next up, we're in the T's in the home stretch here. Mr. Timothy Day, and Tim is our lead body man. Tim has the ability to make panels so unbelievably straight, and him and Jeff work so well together by Tim's body work and refining and sanding and fitting, that when it gets handed off to Jeff can do his final little steps, and next thing you know, everything's beautiful.
Yeah. Tim knows exactly what Jeff needs to be successful. So, boom.
And it's interesting because Tim of everybody in the business, Tim doesn't really have the variety of tasks because he's a body man.
Right.
So kind of by definition, he's got a repetitive type job.
True.
But every single panel is different, and every car is different, and they've all got different shapes, which require different techniques. And some are fiberglass, and some you got some plastic stuff and steel, and he's got it down, and he does great work. And it's funny sometimes. He's also the classic example of the tortoise and the hare, because slow and steady definitely wins this race.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see him sanding on something, and everything's hand sanded. He's not going to overcut something with a power tool and then have to go back and fix it. He does
Gotcha.
it once. It's one progression. When he starts it, it's going to go to the end. It's going to be done. Very few times does anything need to get fixed or corrected. And it's very methodical, and it works great. And the cars, obviously, it shows. So I appreciate Tim and his experiences there. Another T, Mr. Toby Cochran. And Toby's a great personality. He came to us as a shop assistant again. And if you notice, we have a hard time keeping shop assistants because we grow them into something else. They always...
That's perfect.
They evolve. And
Yeah.
it's not because that guy was an idiot and we fired him. No, that really doesn't happen. It's because the shop assistant position allows people to be in all departments and see what they like or demonstrate their abilities. So Toby started pushing a broom, essentially. What he actually started as, he would detail the building.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it was unbelievable. The floors were swept to perfection. The machines were wiped down. You know, little bits of trash and stuff were put away. Things were organized. He is a clean person, very organized. And it's like, wow, you know, and he liked it. He took pride in his work. He wants it to be a clean place. He likes that everybody likes that it's a clean place.
Yeah.
You know, it makes a better environment. We don't have people that say, oh yeah, I'm not, you push the broom, it's below me. No. You know, this is our place. Let's make it nice. So Toby has evolved into basically an assistant for Jeff in the paint department. So he's sanding, prepping, cleaning parts, hanging parts, you know, so that Jeff can do his work. But he's also our detail guy. So when a car gets ready to go home, Toby puts the polish on it and makes them look awesome. And I couldn't believe it. Just the other day, we have a 73 Camaro in the shop that is actually a personal relation car to Sarge. It is the actual car that got Sarge into cars.
Wow.
Sarge's dad owned this car when Sarge was 5 years old, and now it belongs to his uncle.
That's incredible.
And it's been in a barn for years, and it came to us, and it just needed to be brought back to life. It needed maintenance fluids,
Sure.
a couple of parts, needed a headliner, and it smelled like dead mice, and you know, it was dusty, and there was stuff written on the trunk lid. It was a mess. And Caleb did most of the mechanical work on it, and he fixed it, and Jay put a headliner in it, and it was time to get it ready to go home. And then it goes through Toby, and Toby cleaned and polished, and he gutted the interior and took the seats out and shampooed the carpet and found more dead mice and stuff and got rid of them. And then, hand cleaned all the seats with, you know, the appropriate cleaners and protectants and all the stuff. And it smelled, you know, really, he used an ozone machine to kill all the rest of the smell in the car. The car smells like brand new. I mean, it's incredible.
That's killer, man.
It is. It's like, wow, was that a difference? So he's doing a great job. And Toby's another guy with just a great attitude. He's always upbeat, you know, concerned with everybody else and a great member of the team.
Yeah, sounds like a treasure.
He is. Good guy. Next up, we have Tracy McClintock. And Tracy, we started with Amber a while ago. Tracy's also in the administrative assistant side, and she's Amber's mom.
Ah.
So Amber, you know, felt our business to be worthy enough to recommend that her mom join us.
That's quite an honor.
It's pretty cool. It's a great family. We're happy that we have that family connection. I mean, Kelly and we're married, obviously, so there's that type thing. But to have people say, "Hey, you know, I'd like my mom to work here too," is pretty neat. And Tracy has a legal secretary background, so she's very detail oriented and she's very process oriented. And
Gotcha.
She does a lot of office type spreadsheet billing. Returns, parts ordering, that kind of stuff, but also has been heading up an inventory project to make sure that we've got all of our bolts in the right places and the bins are labeled and we got the counts on all that stuff. But one of the things she does also is when a car is getting ready to leave, there's a departure checklist. And it's got to be signed off on by the technician that did the work. Are all the boxes checked? And was it photographed? And is it cleaned? And does the customer have their final invoice? And blah, blah, blah. And she is real good at policing that and making sure that everybody gets their stuff done. so that
Wow.
these cars go home, in the proper way. And that's not easy.
I bet it's not.
So we appreciate everything she does. And her husband is the guy who's the racer. So she's,
Gotcha.
totally familiar with this. He's got, I don't know, 13 cars at the house or something. And
Wow.
she tells me, my husband's got all the hot rod magazines, and, they've been to SEMA and the whole thing. So, very much in the industry as well. And then our last T, which is our last regular team member, of course, is Mr. Trevor Spence.
Trevor, the one, the only.
That's right. Trevor is our longest term team member at this point. He's been with us the longest. And Trevor came to us as a technician. In fact, he was running a Walmart. He got hired as a tire tech at a Walmart, and they said, "You're too good for that." So they promoted him to be a manager. He was a night manager at a Walmart. So he had all the Walmart training for managerial skills and all that kind of jazz. And then, but just hated it.
Yeah.
Because it was an overnight at a Walmart. Just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And saw our ad a long time ago when we were still on the farm, that long ago,
Oh my
before we
gosh.
had our street storefront business. And Trevor grew up with his dad restoring cars and building stuff. And he was a young guy at the time who had experience working on cars from the 30s. And it was like, wow, that's unusual.
Yeah.
But he's got experience from the 30s all the way up to brand new stuff. So he's also our lead calibrator and tuner. He's kind of our high-tech technician. And he's also, now he's our shop foreman as well. So he's, in charge of making sure the workflow is done and the cars move through the right departments and making sure that the team has what they need and everybody can get their stuff done. So in addition to supplying you with trivia questions.
Yeah, that's his best job of all.
But, quite honestly, he's in kind of an interesting spot because he really liked working on the cars. But he also, wants to be able to contribute more and help the business grow.
Yeah.
So his time is kind of split between turning wrenches and getting people set up with everything they need. It's two kind of different jobs he's doing at once.
Kind of a hybrid.
Yeah. And I know it's stressful for him sometimes. I know it's stressful for the team because it's like, are you wrenching today or are you helping over here? And he was somebody who, in our business, it's not a traditional business. We created this position as we grew. We didn't necessarily have a manual to say every single job title. These things kind of evolve.
Right.
So there are times when you're finding out, well, this works better than that, and maybe this didn't work so well or whatever. But everybody's trying to do their best. Trevor's a guy who, at the end of the day, he comes into my office and says, "Okay, do you need anything else from me today?" And I'll say, no, we're all good. Okay, then I'm going to leave. And I know he's going to go into Kelly's office. He's not going to leave for another hour. Because he wants everything to go as well as possible. He wants to put the time in. He does. It's great. He likes being there, and we really appreciate that. So, of course, the big K is Kelly, who is the operations manager, and she has the ability to run this show. And the way, when I say run the show, she's the one who worked with Trevor to put him in that place. She's the one who said, we need individual people in individual departments. Instead of, oh, you're a mechanic, I'm going to hire you. And, oh, now you can go paint the car, and now you can go do the wiring. So she departmentalized our business and then put experts in those departments. And that's been the key.
Oh, it's all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because this is an enthusiast type place, a lot of people cross over. Tim can spray, even though he's a body man. Trevor can spray paint. Jeff knows how to wire cars and build engines and, if he has to, all that stuff. But everybody's got kind of their primary department. So they're most efficient and they work the best and they do what they like to do.
Yeah.
And we have times when somebody's like Jay, went from one department to another, and that's cool too.
Yeah, and he came to you about that. It wasn't like you made an announcement. Hey, who knows how to do upholstery work? We're going to open up this department now.
Right, so that was totally organic.
Yeah, he came to you. Hey, I'd like to do this, and boom. I mean, why wouldn't you want to bring more things in house. Just for the quality control alone.
For sure. And when you got somebody who's passionate about doing it,
Yeah.
It's going to get done right. So, we do have our challenges here and there where it's like everybody in the business wants to build the best car possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggle becomes, we need to maintain our quality standards, but sometimes that level isn't necessarily what this customer wants, needs, or can pay for,
Mm-hmm.
or wants to pay for.
Right.
And it's important to share that if that's the case, it's not that we're cutting corners. You still do the best job you can. And one great example, I was talking before about that C10 that Red is working on. He's doing the 4-link. So the bed's off the truck. It's got frame rails that have surface rust on them. We cut the frame, put a C-notch in it, put the brackets in, get it all fit up, put the coilover suspension in, blah, blah, blah. All the brackets come off. They go through the paint process. Toby cleans them up. Jeff paints them. They're all beautiful, black. And then Red puts them back on the truck. And now they're final installed. They look dynamite. The frame doesn't look dynamite. Those brackets look awesome. So everybody wants to take the truck off the frame now and go do it. And I get it. The customer today is like, well, really, phase one is let's just get this thing to sit the way I want, drive the way I want.
Yeah.
But he's looking at it already going, ooh, yeah, I think maybe phase 2 is going to be that. So that's an example of doing the best that you can on the task that's required, even though the stuff around it does require more, but nobody compromised on that.
Right. Yeah.
And
that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, it's a thing. But what a great problem that everybody wants to do.
Yeah, right?
Awesome work, right? And everybody wants to work with customers that want this stuff and appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, like I said in the very beginning of this Odyssey, that we have people that get along and they respect each other, and we don't have the practical jokers or the guys, MFing each other or lighting each other on fire, or leaving somebody's toolbox out, whatever the crap is. None of that. It's what can I do to help that guy? What can that guy do to help me? Let's work together. And it's when you step out and then come back, you're like, wow, that's pretty neat. And I am in no way taking credit for this. I'm just reporting that I am super lucky to be in a place that I can show up to work there every day with those people that care so much. So,
yeah, well, it doesn't happen by accident. I mean, you and Kelly and the culture that you fostered has quite a bit to do with the results that you have today. So you can pat yourself on the back a little bit.
Well, and again, that's not really, certainly not why I'm doing this spiel here. I feel that everybody deserves the recognition for what they're doing, and we respect them. We treat everybody the same with a high level of respect. It's like my grandmother used to say at Christmas time about the grandkids, each gets the same. Treat everybody, the same way, bottom to top. There is no bottom to top. There's just different areas, and try to afford people some flexibility, because we know that, this at the end of the day, this is your job, but your family's more important, and you got personal stuff. And if we can accommodate that, we will. And hopefully you can get your stuff done the way it needs to be done, and go from there. We recently shifted the hours of the shop earlier so that we start at 7 and it's a half-hour lunch and everybody's out by 3:30, which means all the technicians are anyway, so that Friday at 3:30, they get a long weekend.
Yeah, it almost does feel like a long weekend, doesn't it?
Getting off at 3:30 is nice.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's the same 8 hours,
Correct.
But they were cool with being a little bit earlier because it gets them ahead of traffic. And, at the end of the day, they still have time. If they have an appointment or something, they can still make that and whatever. So we tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what the idea is, bring it to us. If it's going to help everybody, let's do it. I don't care. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, love it.
But without this team, none of this would happen. And they're pretty amazing people. And again, it's just gratitude. So I appreciate it.
Right on, man. Good stuff.
So thanks for letting me share all that, because
well, it needs to happen.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I should have done it before, I know, but
well, we're doing it now, so all is not lost.
Before I thought it was just you and I, and you've already met all these people. So.
Yeah, I met quite a few of them. Yeah,
Yeah, for the most part.
yeah, yeah. And there's not one bad thing I could say about any of them. So they've all been. Everyone I've met from the crew has been terrific. So it's
and again, I'm not trying to sugarcoat or make this sound. Everybody has tough days, and
Sure.
people get mad. It's not sunshine and unicorns and lollipops all the time.
right.
But overall, it's very professional, and they get it done, and
Yeah.
they do it well.
Right on.
So you know what else is right on?
Oh, I know what's right on, man.
Our overdue trivia question answers.
All right, let's do this. All right, Kevin. So I asked you, what is the oldest car company still in business today? And you immediately hit on Mercedes-Benz, and then you went, well, I think maybe you're trying to pull a fast one on me. Maybe
Yeah, if this is
Peugeot.
Matchbox or something.
Hear me out, please. Please, sir. Sir, please. I have the floor. And then you said, maybe Peugeot. No. Dodge, no, not Ford. And then you came back full circle and said, Mercedes-Benz or Daimler-Benz or whatever they're calling it today. Final answer. And boy, are you glad you came around, because, yes, sir, it is Mercedes-Benz, founded in 1883.
83, yeah. All right.
Well done.
Good.
See,
Thank you.
I wasn't pulling a fast one. That's a legit question.
It is. It is. I apologize for my
It's okay. It's okay.
my suspicion with
It's
some of
okay.
these.
I forgive you.
I've had a couple of situations in the past,
Yeah, maybe.
like a Duryea.
Yeah. It's funny because I still have a Duryea question on tap I can ask. But I'm leaving that go.
Let's not do that.
Okay.
All right, so I asked you, what overall is the weakest Firebird ever? And you said that you believe it's a third-generation Firebird powered by a General Motors Iron Duke four-cylinder built in 1982 at a screaming 110 horsepower.
That's what I said.
And I said the year and the horsepower were bonuses.
Yes.
Or boni. And so you got it right. It is a third gen. For sure.
Everyone's a winner.
Yes, and you're close on the bonuses, but they were bonus, so it doesn't matter. It was actually the 85 version.
85.
Powered by the LQ9, which was the 2.5 Iron Duke.
Hey, right on.
So you did get that right, and it made a blistering 88 horsepower.
88 horsepower. Oh, man.
Which I believe is less than that one-barrel six-cylinder.
Oh, it was way less than that one barrel six-cylinder. That was 150 horsepower was the one barrel.
Out of the one barrel? Wow.
Yeah, the Sprint was 200 horsepower. Mm-hmm. It was the 3.8, 230 cubic inch Sprint 6 and 66.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah.
More
Man,
knowledge.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me something here.
All right. Well, I got more. So
Yardley, mark 2 wins in the box.
that's it. Bam, bam. All right. Well, this again, this was fun. I thank you for hanging with me and sharing all that.
Always.
I think it's important, and again, I'm super fortunate. So I invite you to subscribe if you enjoyed this kind of stuff. We're always happy to have the subscription services beam you out the next episode. You don't even have to do anything.
You don't. It's auto magic.
It is. It just shows up automagically.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we've bothered our people's ears long enough.
Maybe.
You got anything else for me?
I'm having a blast doing this, man, and I hope we keep it going.
Well, hopefully we'll talk to you in a week or so. Hopefully.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Yeah, we should.
Well, for Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clark, I'm Kevin Oosty, reminding you that you can't get nothing done without good help. So do that and keep the shiny side up. And we'll see you next time on VA Radio.